Welcome everybody to another episode of The Discarded Compass. And we're all the way from Germany, we have a great guest for you, and it's Andreas Muller. Andreas, how are you, sir?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you very much for the invitation. And how are you?
You're welcome. I'm more than good, actually. Yeah. Enjoying doing these podcasts and things. Are you a teacher or are you not a teacher? And how did all this begin for you?
Well, I'm not a teacher, of course. There's nothing to teach, so I'm not a teacher.
And how did all this apparent teaching happen?
How it happens or how it happened? How it happened? Well, it happened quite unexpected, and it literally came out of nowhere. So at one point, it was somehow clear that this is going to happen, that these talks will be set up, but it wasn't planned or expected for months beforehand or something. It was just quite surprisingly clear that, I think those talks are, it seems as if I start talking. And quite quickly there was a website happening and the first talks were announced, and that's how it started.
And were you on a spiritual journey prior to this happening?
Well, of course, I met Tony Parsons kind of 2 years before I started speaking. And before those 2 years, I was on a spiritual path for quite a few years, actually. Yeah. So I was on a spiritual path. Then I met this message through Tony Parsons. And at some point, so to speak, those talks started to happen.
And was it a traditional spiritual path you were on, or was it non-dual path?
I wasn't aware. People called it non-dual, but it was more like Advaita self-inquiry that I did. I was with a guru in Germany, and he was holding satsangs. That's how it was called. Some people actually back then already called it Advaita or non-duality, but I wasn't too conceptual, so I didn't really care at that time. Well, not that I care today, but...
So when you met Tony, did something happen? Apparently, could you tell us about that?
Well, for me, actually, when I met Tony, I wasn't looking for someone. I had been coming out of this guru-disciple thing a few months before that, and I was quite happy that this collapsed in a way, and I felt quite free. Of course, I still was someone. I felt free as a me, so to speak, but I was enjoying that time, actually. So I wasn't really looking for someone or for another event to go even. But then I stumbled over Tony and it caught my attention. And actually, I think 2 or 3 weeks later, he had a talk in Germany and I just went. Also unexpectedly. As I said, I was quite happy not having, so to speak, an event to go to and stuff like that. So, but I went and I was quite impressed. I think that's a good term. I was just impressed by it. And I was also a bit disappointed because I thought I knew a lot from all this seeking period, but it was quite obvious that something else was going on there. I couldn't name it and stuff. But I think it was fascinating to me. Yeah.
So maybe you were in, as they call it, the tiger's mouth before you met Tony.
That's possible because I had an awakening. I had a few before, but I could somehow put them into the spiritual story. But a few months before I met Tony, I had an awakening. And that's when the spiritual game ended. It was so obvious that I will never make it, and that seeking has nothing to do with finding something. So they're the spiritual seeking kind of collapsed already. And yes, and then I met this message a few months afterwards. But yeah, well, if you want so, one could say it was already happening, so to speak.
Hmm. I remember Tony was talking about he was walking across the car park one day and it just, the whole paradoxical event happened.
Mm-hmm. Yes, actually, I had something like that at the beginning of my spiritual seeking, but all I had to connect to, as I survived it, so to speak, was spirituality and were personal teachings.
What happened?
Well, what do you mean back then? Well, it wasn't a big thing actually, and I understood, so to speak, years later that there was an awakening, because there was actually like nothing going on, but suddenly there was a kind of a finding myself again. There was something like, oh, I'm here, wow, and all I knew was that the body wasn't sleeping, but I wasn't aware of anything. As I said, I understood years later that this must have been an awakening, kind of. Because from then on, I felt very unrooted, like as if I had been ripped out of the ground a bit, but then left again. That's how I felt. And then there was the spiritual seeking with a lot of ups and downs and stuff like that.
Um, it's quite something for to happen to someone as such, and it can be quite terrifying. Maybe was it like that for you?
Well, as I said in the beginning, I really wasn't. It wasn't really part of my story. Even this first glimpse or the first awakening, I think there was just an irritation going on afterwards about not feeling so solid anymore. Nothing really felt solid, but I was still there trying to cope with that. So that was quite irritating. While the awakening, so to speak, at the end of the spiritual period, that was quite freeing, actually. That was a good one. And I was very relieved afterwards because the spiritual seeking already became a real burden. The promise was out, so to speak. It was just trying and so.
Yeah, it seems we have to be nearly hammered into submission. Maybe life does that to people. Excuse me, and sometimes it can be too much. There's lots of perspectives, lots of different unique. Maybe awakenings are unique for everybody in some respects, but you mentioned that you left the fold as such, and there was some sort of recognition, maybe recognizing of your true self. Did that recognizing happen with Tony? When was that final event? Could we name it like that?
Well, I think this final event happened actually when I started talking. I think my start of the talking came out of this dying. So I think when I met Tony, it was about 2 years of fading out. And I didn't have a clear event at the end. It was more like, well, as I said, suddenly these meetings started out of nowhere, actually. But it was quite clear that it'll be what will be coming out. It won't be a concept or just learned sentences or something, it was quite clear that this message would come out.
It's like an alive, spontaneous. It has to be, doesn't it? It has to be alive, spontaneous dialogue.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Yeah. Only. Yes, only. There is no prepared knowledge or something. Never. Yeah.
And then you're meeting people with ideas, contrived ideas and beliefs and a lot of knowledge, maybe meeting you, and you're delivering this message. How is that? How does it work?
Well, if I would describe it, I would regard it as an answering. And it's not answering the concepts or something, because also the concepts are more like a tool for the seeking energy. So it's the seeking energy that asks, so to speak, how can I be free? What's the path? How should I be? All those questions. And there is an answer, but it's actually a non-answer. It's nothing coming back, or no thing is the answer. And apparently this seems to set up, and that's kind of an energetic dynamic that happens. One could, say it like that.
And when the response is for no one, for no thing, just something I was thinking about this evening, it's like the mind will grab that and it will say, oh, I'm there, because there's a mental nothing as well. Is that a big trap for people? And how do they navigate that?
Well, I think it's inevitable. I wouldn't call it a trap. I think it is to be expected, because the seeking energy will do that, no matter what I say, no matter what I don't say, no matter if those meetings don't happen, so to speak. The seeker will conceptualize life. The seeker will conceptualize what happens. And of course, the seeker will do this with this message or with this non-answer as well. It's not a trap. It will happen. and there is no possibility for the seeker to go around that.
Yeah, it's quite a tough place for a seeker to be in a certain respect. But is it it's inevitable? Is there anything wrong with that?
No, exactly. That's why also I wouldn't call it a trap. It's just what apparently happens. And it's just what apparently happens when there is someone. But Andreas, that's how the seeker lives.
That makes it even worse for someone that's really screaming to get this message, to be told, no, that's it too. I mean, really, it's terrible. It's terrible.
In the end, the seeker's dilemma is that it's already whole and complete. Absolutely. For the seeker, it would be much more easy if there would be a real seeker and a real problem. Yes.
And it's quite fascinating. I've said this before. It's the most fascinating thing in life to be talking about. And we've got different ways of talking about enlightenment, different avenues, different religions, different perspectives. It's an amazing thing. But at the end of the day, you have to walk it alone.
Oh.
Isn't that true? You have to kind of say, okay, you have to look inward.
Well, I know what you mean. Of course, I wouldn't put it like that. But of course, in the end, it's, well, how to say that? Yes, it's not about concepts. It's not about dancing around it. I mean, that's what all the religions and philosophies usually do. They dance around it, but still remain separate. But of course, in the end, for liberation, so to speak, you need to die. Which again is another story, because it turns out that there isn't even someone to die. Well, yeah. It's not what we talk about is not dancing around an artificial topic. Liberation, I am someone, how to reach it. Is it better to meditate? Or is it better to chant mantras? Or is it better to not do any of that's all quite well, of course, these are the questions that the seeker is interested in, but in the end, that's all quite conceptual still.
To try and navigate it, to try and meet a direct message like this is daunting. And what would be the ultimate pointer that you would give anybody?
Well, I say something, but at the beginning I have to say you can't give pointers to someone, because in the end these aren't even pointers. You can't even point to the natural reality because it's not over there. It's never over there. It's never something you can point out. But of course, in the end, what would be the pointer is there is no one. That's the pointer. There is no one. This is it. This would be another one.
Is there an answer in the seeking?
And no, of course not. No. No. There is no answer.
So there's no arrival?
There's no arrival. Exactly. All those ideas are part of the personal dream. And all of those questions, so to speak, dissolve in, hello, there is no one. Those would all be those questions. When will I arrive? Can I arrive? Is there an arrival? Who am I? What to do? What's the truth? And the answer in the end is, hello. Who's asking? There is no one. Hello. Yes. There isn't even a question, really. Because who's asking?
But obviously you're here talking to me. I mean...
I wouldn't go that far, that I am here talking to you. But yeah, that's what apparently happens. Yeah, understand.
So how is that energy, that what's left there? How would it be described?
Well, that's the thing. It can't be described at all because there is nothing left here that happens exclusively here. There isn't a certain way of experiencing or a certain way of being here left, in contrast to you or to the screen or to anything else. There's just those sentences. Well, there's everything and nothing, and what happens is all there is, and stuff like that. But it's not something that happens inside here, in contrast to other things. So in that sense, there's really nothing left. Nothing that could be claimed or named or observed or experienced. There is no, nothing grasping itself, nothing experiencing itself.
Yet, why is there always a movement towards understanding what you just said?
What do you mean on the seeker's side?
Yeah.
Well, I think understanding looks like a good tool to find fulfillment. I think the seeker, the seeking energy, is looking for personal fulfillment, and understanding is just a tool. It doesn't have to be understanding, really. I mean, there are spiritual schools who say, oh, leave the mind, just feel or experience purely and stuff. I think it just looks like a good tool to think about it, to understand it, to find answers. Because it creates those moments of, that's how it is. And those moments seem promising.
And yet people seek for something ultimate, something final, something that's bigger and better, and the real reality. And it is so ironic that if that was so, it would be so that they would have got it already. I mean,
one could say so. Yes, if seeking would have worked out, if their methods would have worked out, they would have already gotten it.
Yeah. And can we talk about the energy something makes disappear? What is that? How does everything appear the way it is? Life, tables, chairs, people, the world spins around and round.
Well, there is no answer to that, because the world never really appears. There isn't a process of appearance. I think that's the difficulty with the word appearing, because the person, it would always add a creation process to the word appearing. And the question would be, how has the world come into existence? That's what the person would ask when it says, how does the world appear? But in that sense, the world isn't appearing. There isn't anything appearing in terms of coming into existence. That's why there is no answer to it. It's a projection of the person, because the person experiences itself as something that has appeared. I came into existence. I'm something that's now here. And it just projects its reality onto everything, thinking, wow, this has appeared. Together with me, actually. So when this sense of I am collapses, this whole impression that there is a world out there that has appeared collapses as well. So there is no answer.
So the only way to go is within and look for the I am?
Well, who would do that? It's a really hopeless situation for the person, because I can't suggest anything, not even to go inwards. I mean, of course, one could say, if there would be a question, it would be, who is there? Is there someone? But there isn't anyone who could ask it to itself. So there's no direction to go at all.
And the thought will come up, who's asking the question, and another thought will come up, and
so to speak, exactly. You look inwards, and then it's possible that you even don't find someone. So you end up being someone who says, well, I've looked inwards, I haven't found someone, but I can't do anything with this knowledge because I experience myself still as present. That's what usually happens when people go inwards. They survive their inquiry, so to speak.
So there's no self-center there, Andreas.
Yes. Yes. In the end, nowhere. That's why we can call it an illusion, so to speak. But there is no I within anyone or within anything. Absolutely.
And when it's seen that there's no self-center, therefore the word illusion is used because that goes hand in hand with the happening.
Well, yeah, one could say so. Yes, yeah. So people, it's a tough one with the word illusion, because of course when I say the I is an illusion, for the I it still sounds as if there is something. Okay, there isn't an I, but there is a real illusion that we can work on or stuff like that. But what it actually means is There is just no such thing. There isn't anything within anyone, neither an I nor an illusion.
And what's coming up here is the word freedom. Is there such a thing?
No, not as an experienceable state, but sitting in front of a screen and being you and being me is utterly free. It's not limited by anything. It's not limited by any greater instance or by any absolute observer or some kind of force or principle. That's the freedom. In that sense, freedom is the natural reality, but it's not yours or mine or... Yeah.
It's simply, and that's
yes.
it.
Yes. 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 Yes.
God, so simple, isn't it, really? I mean, you know.
Oh. And it's already the case. That's the simplicity. Yes, it's already free to exactly be this. Nothing takes care, nothing has opinions, nothing tries to push it. Exactly as it is. Not realizable, again, because it already is this. So yeah, it's utterly, utterly simple and beautiful, and yes.
And there must be a relaxation and ease about you because of this.
Yes, one could say so. Yes. Well, let's put it like this. It's just the end of this artificial struggle. It doesn't create an additional ease or on top, I'm at ease. No, not that. It's much more natural and ordinary. But of course, this artificial struggle of the person to find something deeper and the consequences out of that, frustration and longing and analyzing, and this, of course, this dropped. That's naturally easy.
Besides the person, and you got dis-ease, don't you? With the apparent seeking and the apparent person is dis-ease.
One could say so, yes. Yeah, to be someone, apparently, is kind of connected to this sense of, I have to do it. Something's not quite right. It's a struggle. It feels like a struggle. I have to do something. I need to do it. Yeah.
And there's suffering in there, isn't there, with that setup?
Yes. One could call this setup itself suffering. Yeah.
The setup itself, the core setup. What is that disease? What is the core setup of that personal disease for anyone? Could you?
Well, it just feels as if one's own presence is unbearable, as if there is some kind of, the moment there is this self-center, it feels as if something isn't quite right, as if there's a tension going on all the time. And the person thinks that it needs to find an answer to that, either to make this tension go away or to heal it or to soften it or whatever. I can't explain it really, because it's just what seems to be happening. But that's what seems to be happening, and there is this me. It just feels something's not quite right.
Is there a compassion for people in that place, or would you see it as just an illusion?
I wouldn't see, yeah. That's the thing. You can't really have compassion with people because there isn't anyone really. But of course, there can be compassion for the struggle, for the feelings that go on. But you can't have compassion really with, there isn't any, even in that, there isn't anyone there really. So, not really.
Life, that energy, that life energy, I think the paradox of someone trying to be this, it seems as soon as they try to reach it, they create somebody that's trying to reach something, and they actually trap themselves doing that. Then they might say, okay, I'm not going to do anything. And then you got someone not doing anything. And they say it's already this, and they're unclear whatever. Are they right that this that they've got, is it the correct this? You know, how can you be sure?
Yeah. You can't be sure. That's the thing. You can never be sure, but only when there's no one left. There just is no one left. And I think this can't be denied anymore then, because it has nothing to do with knowledge or self-assurance or something. Everything else would somehow be apparently artificial, and it would need to be kept up somehow. So, but when there is no one, there just is no one. And it's not really a claiming of that. It's rather an admitting of it.
So there's a recognizing, or it doesn't, it's not something to get, which is the most important thing for people to understand, maybe. It's already so, to work from that premise.
Well, yeah, there already isn't anyone. Yeah. And it's not an issue. It's not something that, when there is no one, it's not really something that's interesting anymore, because there just isn't anyone. It's not something that I need to remind myself, or that my joy is based on, so to speak, the knowledge that there is there just is no one. I mean, hello? So yeah, of course. It's more like this. But it's not a real issue. My impression is when there is someone, it's always an issue. One's own presence is always an issue for the person. My life, what do I want? What's this about? Was this good or bad? Have I already become no one? When you are in non-dual circles. But I think for the person, it's life, and some sort of seeking is always an issue. But when there is no one, so to speak, there's no issue left. Not even the issue to not be anyone. There's just no issue.
It's hard to comprehend that's so sure. That's because if there's never a place to end, there's no arrival. How can no one be an arrival?
Yes, it's not. And this is not coming out of... That's the thing. When I say there is no one, it's not coming from a place of knowledge. It's not coming from a knowledge that I carry around since 5 years and I'm sure of. One could say the certainty, if you would call it like that, is instant. On the one hand, it's timeless, but actually it's instant. That's what I mean. It's just, there is no one. I don't have to look for it. I don't have to remember it. I don't have to remember the concept. It's just a direct report about what seems to be going on.
So to be sure, that surety, maybe sitting on the fence, someone might think, I have to be sure there's no one there. So it sounds ridiculous when I'm talking like this. But anyway, it's like, that's a mental idea as well.
Yes. But of course, that's what the seeker is looking for, with total sincerity. I mean, one could say that's actually quite sweet from the seeker, that the seeker really wants to know it. The seeker doesn't want a fake fulfillment, it wants real fulfillment. So, and its idea is, how can I become that? How can I honestly and sincerely know that there is no one, thinking that being no one is something good for me, or thinking that this must be liberation, my liberation. And so, yeah, that's the attempt. How can I become that as a me? how can I be there and claim wholeheartedly and honestly, I am liberated, I have become no one, there is no. But this will never happen. It can't happen. It can't. It can't.
Terrible message. It's terrible.
I'm sorry. Well, yes. If the seeker would be real, it would be really horrible. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be climbing the walls. God, it's such an amazing thing. I mean, we want to be present at our own absence. Isn't that so ridiculous? I mean,
yes. It's wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful. But yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's the dilemma.
There are clues to this. I mean, prior to birth, we know that there was a prior to birth because we say before we were born. So we're probably that presence that doesn't know itself. Is that what's happening now?
Oh yeah, one could say so. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the natural reality. And it's only a dream that there is something here knowing itself. It doesn't happen. That is the unknowable. It's the same unknowable then, so to speak, prior to birth. It never changed. Even with birth, it didn't change. It remained equally inexperienced.
So ultimately, we're not the beingness or the non-beingness.
Yes, there is no comprehension really about the idea of what we are and what we aren't. There's just what apparently happens, but it's totally inexperienced. It doesn't even experience itself. It just is itself. So sitting in front of a screen and being you and being me is blindly itself. It doesn't even know if it is. It just is, so to speak.
There's seeing happening automatically. There's hearing happening. I can hear you. There's no effort, is there, to be made?
Absolutely. There's no effort. Yep. Yep.
And you're seeing me, I'm seeing you. I mean, there's no fixed point for you where that seeing is happening from?
Absolutely. Yeah, one could say so. Yes. Yes. There isn't a separate experience also of the seeing of this.
So where's the location for the seeing to be registered? I mean,
it's not really registered. That's the thing. There is nothing additional registering and telling to itself, okay, now there's this conversation going on. Aha, I see John. And so it's not, it doesn't happen.
So there's no comment. I used to call it the committee meeting. There's no committee meeting happening.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm quite sure the brain does its job, but there isn't anything experiencing this from a separate standpoint.
Yet there's hearing happening, experiences are happening.
Apparently, but actually no one knows it really.
So there are experiences, but no experiencer?
I wouldn't say it like that, because for me the experiencer goes together with the experiences. I would say there is a living body, and the body speaks, the body feels, the body thinks, but there is nothing there experiencing the body speaking, feeling, thinking. Some people would say when there are feelings, they would call feelings experiences.
Yeah.
But I would say there are feelings apparently, but they are not experienced. That's what I mean. The body feels. But
how do you know you have them then?
oh, impossible. It's not known. I don't know that I have feelings.
But if you strike your thumb with a hammer, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it.
Yes, that's what I mean. Apparently, the body would feel pain and there would be, ow! But all of this would happen for no one. There wouldn't be an additional experiencer that's aware of the pain in the body. It's just the body feeling pain. Ow!
So maybe there's no story around hitting your thumb with the hammer as such.
There is no experiencing of it.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be no like, look what happened to my thumb, and you're going showing everybody your thumb, it's swollen, and it's like, complaining to this person, that person, and going on about it for maybe 2-3 months about your thumb, because that referencing, actually getting into that now, come to think of it, that referencing to our story, there's like a similarity in that and the seeking story.
Yeah, of course.
Reference to, the more it keeps it alive, keeps the story alive.
Yeah, but I would say the basis of it, so to speak, is the sense of I am that lives in the need to tell itself stories. That's why I say liberation is not the end of telling oneself stories. It's the end of oneself. And automatically stories lose their meaning, so to speak. Stories aren't interesting anymore. But it's really this illusion of a separate experiencer. And that's, I would describe as energetic. And that's what turns out to be illusory. So there is no observer of me feeling the pain. There isn't a separate awareness to what happens.
So the only way is to take out that core illusion of the separate self that I am, to see through that. Because everything else is sort of adding carrots to the search.
Yes.
Would you kind of agree with that?
I didn't really understand.
Well, as in, like, there are some teachings it would go around the subject as you kind of spoke about at the start of the program. And this is like a direct to take it out by the root, besides trimming the branches and giving something for the ego to do to trim the branches, it just keeps the tree alive.
One could say so, yeah. It's ripping out the root by the turning out that it's not even there. You can't even rip it out. It's not there. There is no one.
The root isn't even there to rip out. That's just, you have to give someone something to do.
Well, no, I mean, that's the whole thing. And it's impossible to compromise. Not out of, not because it's not allowed to compromise, but the thing is, the moment you give one thing, you acknowledge the whole thing to be real. And it really doesn't matter if you offer a path of hundreds of lifetimes, or if you say just this one thing, just rip out the root. It doesn't matter. It contains the same drama, and all of it contains the same illusion. You can't rip out the root. There is no me to drop. There is no me to go on a path for 100 years, but there is also no me who is able to do one step, not even this single step. It contains the whole drama of seeking. I'm now here and I have to do something in order to create wholeness. No, exactly that is the dream, nothing else. Can't compromise. It's impossible. But as I say, not out of a concept. It's not, it has to be radical or something. No. it's impossible to compromise here, because it's exactly this first I am, which is the dream. And what follows doesn't matter. One step, 10 years of meditation, 100 lifetimes of whatever. No. I'm sorry.
It's sort of, and it could be said that's true compassion,
Well, in that sense, yes, of course. Oh, yeah. It's pointing that all the drama isn't real and all the drama isn't needed. Of course. Yes.
I remember U.G. Krishnamurti. Have you heard of him, the barking dog?
Yeah.
I mean, that was, just my own perspective, my own opinion, is that, it was true compassion. It was just leaving you with nothing, no questions. It was just totally and he never gave that compromise, And I'm just segueing into that, but giving compromises can be seen telling us there's no one there, it's like, it's easy to say that, but there's more to it, isn't there? Because when you're talking from that place, and this came up years ago, and I was speaking to somebody else about it. I said, is that why it changed for you when you started talking like you're talking now? Like, we'll call it guru speak or whatever, you have to put a label on it. Because he was talking, the loop had been seen through, the thinking had been seen through, it had collapsed. And then I could understand that obviously you can't talk like a rational, historical, egoic person anymore, because you can't lie.
That's the thing, yeah. I mean, it has nothing to do with lying, really. And it's not, some people call this message radical, and they think there is something that wants it to be radical, or if radical is a method or something. But in the end, it's just an impossibility to compromise. Yes, it's just impossible. And in that sense, it would be lying directly. It's impossible to open up this concept to acknowledge you or anyone as a seeker and send them go on seeking. Yeah, meditate. Yes, rip out the root. Find yourself. Go home and sit on the sofa and ask yourself, who are you and stuff. No, it would be instantly painful. It's an impossibility. Totally. In that sense, it's not radical for the sake of being radical, or uncompromising for the sake of being uncompromising. That is the message. There is no one. You can't compromise with that, so to speak. And it's funny because there are many, many teachers which would call this compassion to meet people where they are, to acknowledge the seeker because it's still there, and then give them methods until they are ripe enough and stuff. Some people would call this compassion. But from there not being anyone, it's, this is compassion, so to speak. No one does it, and it's no one's compassion. It's not holy or stuff like that. But as we just pointed out, it would be lying.
Yeah. And that helps with discernment around teachers, even knowing that. I mean, there's a lot of, it's a rocky road for seekers, isn't it? This whole journey.
No, absolutely. Of course. Yeah. I mean, in the end, that's what the seeker is looking for, personal advice. And so most people just, for them, it's just what happens.
Yeah, to become a better person. In fact, they're probably becoming a worse version of what they really are by doing that.
they become
They probably become a. It's as if that life force that we don't know is totally open to become a lie.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh yeah, of course. Oh yes.
That's how uncompromising it inherently is, and how free and non-judgmental. That even seems like a very weak word to put on that presence.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yes. Yeah. It has absolutely no clue about right or wrong, or about right or wrong. Yeah. No clue about it. It doesn't care because it doesn't exist. It doesn't have any direction. That again would be the freedom, the utter freedom.
We could call it freedom, but even freedom gives. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And it's not even like something like, yeah, it's a lie, but okay. No, it's really okay. It's just totally free to be whatever it is. No holding back. Wholeness doesn't hold back.
Yeah, and
it doesn't
that's
say
why it allows the world to go around the way it does, as such. Yeah.
One could say so. There is no holding back around saying, nah, shall we allow this? Maybe. No, it's just whatever.
When you mention that, it's like the Big Bang. I mean, was there ever such a thing? Or what about time? How do we negotiate time in this conversation? I mean, is there such a thing, or is it tied to me? Or
yes, yeah, it's tied to me. Yeah. I mean, the personal experience is I am now here. I am something that is now here. I'm aware of it. I experience myself now here. And it's this now and here that creates the impression of time and space. Only. And when that collapses, there's nothing left which could say, I'm now here, I'm happening right now, there is something happening right now. It's just boop, over. And then it's timeless. By just there not being time. And the Big Bang, sorry, just you mentioned it.
very important.
And the Big Bang is actually the story of the person. At the beginning, existence was born. No one really knows what was before or cares about it. The whole story starts with something being born and then evolving. That's exactly how the person experiences itself. I'm born one moment out of nothing. I was born. And from then on, my life happened. My life evolved. So the Big Bang story is just another personal story. It's again the person projecting itself onto the universe. And it's so, and no one cares about before and stuff like that. It's like in real life. Conceptually, there must have been a before. It's logical, but it doesn't really play a role. All that seems to be important is the Big Bang and what happened afterwards. Like in the person's life, all that seems important is my birth and my life afterwards. But before that, of course, conceptually there must have been a before, but no one cares at all about that.
Yeah, there was the Big Bang and everything happened. And then it's like, some people say there could be another Big Bang and finish the whole lot,
Well,
yeah. At the moment. But yeah. And then we've got a fear of death, talking about Big Bangs and big exits. What about death? Is there such a thing?
No, of course not. Because this birth wasn't real. I mean, that is the dream. I'm now here. I've been born and I'm now here is the dream. So as there isn't anything real now, nothing can really die. So no, there's no death in that sense. It's a dream. It's another dream that one day there will be something which is called my death. Oh no. No.
God, it's too much, isn't it, for the mind?
Yeah, it's impossible. Yes.
It's like, oh, the mind will go, yeah, I'm okay. And it's okay. And it's like, hold on a minute, we're talking about death here. And they're telling me, what? You know, it loves stories and references to the past and the future, and to make itself feel secure. Because feeling secure is basically not wanting freedom, isn't it?
Yeah, feeling secure means to survive as a me. How can I feel safe as a me? Which is the same as how can I survive? How can I survive this moment and still exist in the next moment? Yes. Yes. That's what's all seeking about is in the end. How can I survive this moment? How should I be? Open, aware, present, closed, whatever. All attempts of how can there be this and me? In that sense, seeking is a survival mechanism.
Isn't it just the most fascinating subject to talk about?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, yes.
And I was going to say, you must talk about the same things all the time. But then I'm kind of understanding when I'm after saying it just there, it doesn't matter to you, does it? Obviously.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. Yeah, it's just what comes out. Yeah. And it's gorgeous and it's fun, but at the same time, it's meaningless. But, yes.
So everything's like we're all actors on the stage. It's all a drama. And at the end of the day, everything is raised.
Yeah. Well,
there's a certain urge that comes up here, sorry, like a passion. Even knowing that, there's like, oh, geez, let's live, Wow, let's really go for it,
All right.
No idea why. But it's like knowing that, it's like it releases any holds that, any restrictions that would be in the mind.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. It's total.
Sorry, Andreas, is that how it is for you now? I mean, is life better for you now, or sorry, is it worse or what? Or
well, I can't. Well, it's hard. Well, that's impossible to answer because there isn't really nothing left that has a life. But as I said before, of course, this artificial me reality and this artificial struggle dropped, of course. And apparently this seems to bring, it doesn't really bring anything. It's just the end of this artificial struggle. And naturally, there's no problem really. But it's not like that for me. There isn't someone having a better life experience now. So that's hard to explain. I'm not someone who's better off than anyone else. But yeah, certainly this struggle ended. Yeah.
And as you said before, there's more ease to life.
So to say, yes, naturally, automatically. Of course. Because essentially there is no problem with anything. Yeah. Even with having problems, even with getting frustrated or whatever, there's just no deeper problem with anything. Nothing needs a deeper answer. Everything is already good enough, being itself. Nothing needs an additional transformation or a deeper good. It's just fine as it is for no one. But in that sense, that's the natural reality. It's just fine, whatever, anything. While it happens, not conceptually. No one knows that. It's not knowing that everything is fine. No, while it happens, it's just what it is and naturally fine.
So prior to awakening and post-awakening, what's the difference?
Well, you can't measure it really, because in the end, it was whole and complete all the time. So there is no real difference. That's the surprise in the end. When the me drops, it just turns out that there never has been a problem. It's not even really that from that point on, the problem is gone. It's an utter surprise that nothing has ever been a problem, including the seeking and the so-called delusion and whatever. As I say, it's incomprehensible and it's an utter surprise. And I can't explain it. I can't make it logical. I can't explain it to you in a way that it makes sense. But it just was like that. There was never anything missing. There was never a real problem with anything.
And that has to be the case, doesn't it? Because if there was a prize, God, that would be hell.
Yeah.
Or place to teach. Yeah. And that's why the Buddha just walked off.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, just walked off and said nothing. Yeah.
Yes. It was, sometimes I say this, it was amazing when it was amazing. Well, I just never expected that. When I started the talks, or when those talks happened, it was actually the first time in my life where I had nothing to say anymore, neither to myself nor to anyone else. In a way, it was the most unlogical moment to start the talks, because there was blankness, so to speak. No knowledge, no, as I said, nothing that I told myself, nothing that I wanted to share with someone. No, everything was just, and still is, of course, perfect. No one needed to hear this message. No one needed to hear those words. I didn't have to tell them to myself. There was no attempting at all. Because that's how it is. There is nothing that needs to be added.
It's your undefended. Yeah. Yeah.
It's, again?
You're undefended. You're not defended. Like.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Totally undefended. And there is no state, no artificial state that needs to be defended, that needs to be kept up, somehow hold. Yes. Not at all.
So it's so clear listening to you. It's like, of course, you know. Yeah, it's just, you know, when you think about it and you think about all the pitfalls and you really have a look and you say, well, you know, I remember there was a good one. A person said to me once, you can't teach what can't be known. It's a lovely pointer.
Mm. Yes. Yep.
You remind me of that.
Yeah, that's why this is not a teaching, honestly, so to speak. Yeah.
So, but there's a lot to be said when you sit down and everything is blank and natural and ease. It's quite an amazing place, because normally people would call that, my God, he's really confident. Look, he's sitting there like there's nothing happening. And it's like, if you only knew there is nothing happening.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You know, and you seem very relaxed and, you know, probably if there's anything to resonate from someone that has seen through this stuff, it's not really loud, is it? It's not obvious, loud, pretentious. It's just very simple, isn't it?
Yeah, one could say so. Yes, yes. Yeah, it doesn't need, oh, now I'm lacking English. It doesn't need to make more out of itself than it is, so to speak. It's not artificially, it doesn't need an artificial greatness or stuff like that. Yeah, it's very, what we talk about is very simple. Yeah. Yes. Mm. Well, it's just this.
Just this happening. I mean, does everything look different to you now, Andreas, in the world?
Well, it's always, as I said, it's always hard with those questions because there is no one left for whom it is in a certain way. But again, I could say the same thing. When there is someone, everything is filtered through this personal experience. And it's kind of constantly seeing things that don't exist. Purpose, meaning, time, space, direction, development, stuff like that. So in that sense, the person constantly sees an artificial reality. And yes, that's not there anymore. But it's not replaced by me seeing something else or something special. So well, maybe this would be the difference.
Remember, I went to a meeting with Tony Parsons. There was a meeting in Dublin here. And he was like, it's stunning. And I went, yeah? And he said, simple. I went, oh.
Yes, that's how it is for me now.
And the pause was like the big thing was the pause. Yeah. So it's simply stunning and stunningly simple, this, and it's undefended. It's full of ease. It's just incomprehensible. You can't comprehend it. It's full of compassion. I mean, there's a lot in that. And it can't be labeled. We put labels on it like God and Allah and, all sorts of labels.
Exactly. I mean, the surprises, one could say, if you mention all those things, the surprise is that they are ordinary. While the person puts those things, love and what you just said, the person puts those things on high up there as if they were a very holy, far away goal. And the person thinks it must be utterly special and so extraordinary because it's not its experience. But the actual surprise is that those things are totally ordinary and have nothing to do with the specialness that the person thinks they have, or what liberation all this is about. Wholeness, harmony is the natural reality, so to speak. It's not personal. No one has it, no one owns it, no one experiences it. But on the other hand, it's very ordinary and simple, and it's just this.
And usually religions are not, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with religions because they have their place in a way, but they're very salesy and it's like they're selling us ideas. But with this message, there's nothing for sale, is there?
Absolutely. Yes, because it already is like that. That's what I mean. In religions and in any personal narrative, so to speak, wholeness, or what we talk about, is somewhere then. It's at the end of a long path. It's over there. And it must be extraordinary because ordinary is now and fulfillment is then, and it must be different and special and stuff.
Therefore, it always negates where we always are. Yeah.
Sorry. Exactly. And there you can sell methods. That's what you can sell. Hello, I know the path. If you do this, and you can sell them. But here, I can't sell this. It's already happening. Wholeness, harmony is not over there. It's not somewhere and I can show you the path. I can't show you the path to wholeness because what happens is whole already. And in a story, one could say, even the seeker's not seeing of it. It's the same wholeness. It's the same wholeness that we talk about, the same incomprehensible wholeness that we talk about. So, it's an impossibility to suggest, to sell something, to promise something, to say, hey, follow me, listen to me, that will help you. No, sorry. There isn't even this suggestion. You don't need to. There is no one.
Listening, my mind is kind of going, people, they gravitate towards to gurus, to religions, to being sold something, even though they wouldn't admit to being sold something. They think it's for the greater good. But they're on the road to hell in a way, maybe, because it's building up, it's keeping that false self alive, isn't it? I mean, but does it matter then? I mean, God, does it matter?
No, that's the thing. It doesn't matter at all because it just is what apparently happens. And it doesn't matter at all. Yeah. You can't really bring cause and effect in there. It's not the teachings that keep the seeker misguided. I mean, it's the seeker also greedy for teachings. So it's just what apparently happens. And on the one hand, no one's really misguided. And on the other hand, there is no one really lost in that. It's just what apparently happens as well. I'm fine with it. But I also don't care.
Don't care,
about this happening. It's not an issue for me. But on the other hand, when it comes to this message, I'm also happy exposing this game.
Yeah, gurus seem to do that. They seem to, I see that a lot. They seem to have a go at other gurus. And it seems to be like there was some sort of an Indian thing. Sorry, my Eastern traditional teachings aren't great, but it seems that gurus go head to head, and it's a natural way of things, apparently. Traditionally, they've always done that, it seems.
Yeah, oh, totally, of course. I mean, especially there, it also has quite a social aspect and traditional aspect, of course.
Andreas, it's been lovely talking to you. Very easy to talk to. It's nice, Thanks, Where do you do teachings? You've got a website or meetings? I'd like to let you to know let people know.
Yes, I have talks and online talks, and of course now I start traveling again a bit more. I traveled before the pandemic. I was traveling a lot, and then I had a break, and now I'm traveling again. So my website is thetimelesswonder.com, and probably you first end up at a German version, but there is a flag you can click on, and then there are all my events. And I think there's a lot of stuff, videos and books and schedule and stuff. Yeah, it's all there.
Timelesswonder.com. And you've got books as well. Have you written any books?
Yes. Yeah. A few more. I mean, mostly it's transcriptions from talks, but also some written stuff. Yeah. Quite a few now, actually, over the years.
Great. It's good. It's great. It's been lovely talking to you and having you on the show. And so uncompromisingly, we'll have to say goodbye, apparently.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I enjoyed it very much. Lovely.
Same here, Andreas. And take care. And we'll hopefully talk again soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Take care. Thanks.